It is week 23 of the NHL season, and if you can believe it, we got another goalie fight. We've also got teams out for revenge and looking for blood to avenge their captain. The longest playoff drought in the NHL has been snapped. A teenager might legitimately win MVP as he carries his team through what has been undoubtedly the closest playoff race we've seen in years for both conferences. It is all hands on deck here for the push for the playoffs, so let's cover everything that happened in week 23 of the NHL season. Now, Monday starts with a massive game between the Penguins and the Islanders, both second and third in the Metro. This is a potential first-round matchup brewing here. Let's jump right into it with the Islanders up 3-1 halfway through the second, and the Penguins explode. 2 goals in 3 minutes, ties the game. They want more, so they continue to score 7 unanswered. That is the most Sorokin has allowed in his career in one game. Also, Crosby becomes the 8th player in NHL history to record 1,100 assists. Sid the middle-aged man is still doing it. Penguins win a big one to take over second in the Metro. Then over to the Flames versus Avs, where Nazem Kadri had himself a revenge game. 2 goals in a minute for him, and then an absolute shit kicking of the Flames 9-2. Just a total ass whooping from start to finish as they speed run their way to the President Trophy. It was also John Tortorella's debut for the Vegas Golden Knights, and he's wearing a suit. How about that? I don't think you could ask for more of a layup in your first game coaching than facing the Vancouver Canucks. They take their free win. No F-bombs dropped in the media just yet for Torts after day one, so that is a success. Now into 2 teams that honestly should have been dead in the water by now, in the Blues and Sharks. Both of these teams are in the unique spot where they're in the position to make the playoffs while simultaneously being in a spot to win the draft lottery. I don't know if anyone is shocked, though, that the Blues have been one of the hotter teams in the league since the Olympic break. They always seem to do this. Meanwhile, Celebrini and the Sharks have been fighting it as of late, but he steps up and has a monster game. 2 goals, 1 assist to reach 100 points on the season. Only the 3rd Shark in their existence to get 100 in a season, and the 6th teenager in NHL history to do so. The kid is sick. This was all tied at 4s, and then in the last minute with 20 seconds left, there is a leak in Hofer's equipment. The trickler squeezes right by him. That is all she wrote. He's going to want that one back. Sharks win a big one to just barely keep the 2026 Cup prophecy alive. One thing that is certainly not alive, though, is the Toronto Maple Leafs Cup parade. Yeah, this one has been canceled since November. There was a lot of noise going into this game between the Ducks and Leafs, as it was labeled the revenge game for the Gudas hit on Matthews. Of course, this is only really revenge because the Leafs did absolutely nothing when it actually happened. Gudas was actually hurt a few games prior to this, but he insisted on playing in this game tonight, saying, "I want to stand behind my own mistakes and I want to address it myself." Meanwhile, I got players in the NBA missing games because of ankle soreness. Either way, you gotta respect that he's fully owning it, but in typical Leaf fashion, this wasn't even the biggest circus of the day, because hours before puck drop, they fired their GM Brad Treliving, who may have had one of the worst tenures a GM could have. Brutal trades, some questionable signings, and I guess for that reason, you could reinstate the parade. But back to the game, puck drops, and instantly it is Max Domi who wants the smoke with Gudas. He gives him the goods, but I don't think Gudas threw a punch on purpose. He just accepted his fate, said, "Let's get this over with," and that is it. It wasn't finished for him there, though, because shortly after, Michael Pezzetta goes right after Gudas again. He's all horned up to do something. Then the ref grabs him and goes, "Hey, enough. Finger in the face and everything," sends him to the box, and ultimately kicks him out of the game for abuse of an official. They're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. But this is just a tough look for the Leafs. They're about a month late in stepping up for their teammate, and it kind of just seems like it's all an act. The true act, though, was the 3rd and final act of this game. Leafs down 3-1. They come all the way back to take the lead, only for Uncle Leo Carlson to score and tie it to force overtime, and to put a perfect bow on how the Leafs team can't do anything right. They still can't even lose right. John Tavares, the man who left the island, tips one home in OT in the dying seconds. The Leafs win the Revenge Bowl and pick up a massive 2 points to cut the lead down to 40 to make the playoffs and end a wild night of hockey. Moving on to Tuesday, we're jumping in with the Rangers versus the Devils. It does qualify as a toilet bowl game, but these two teams hate each other so much, it's worth the watch anyways. The score doesn't really matter in this game. All you have to know is it's 4-1 Rangers at this point. Scrum breaks out behind the net. Shesterkin jumps in, and then, oh my God, Markstrom skates all the way down the ice, throws off his mask, and says, "We're going here, honey. Wake up the kids. We got our third goalie fight of the season. Markstrom versus Shesterkin, and it's a good one too. Both of them are letting it fly. Gonna give this one to Shesterkin though. He threw a few more that landed afterwards. JT Miller comes up to him and is like, "Fucking right," gives him a few more punches in the shoulder. Igor's like, "I'm done eating these punches. Thank you very much." You got to see the smile on Shesterkin's face after the fight, too. This guy's beaming ear to ear like a kid farting in the bathtub and laughing at the bubbles. That is the highlight of the Rangers season, and it also helped that Shesterkin was a brick wall tonight. 1 goal on 22 shots. Rangers win 4-1. Now, there were some big-time games on, though, for the Eastern Conference playoff race. It started with the Sens versus Panthers. Florida is fully committed to the tank at this point. They basically shut down everyone this season, including probably the equipment managers too. Pretty smart if you ask me, as they're going for Gavin McKenna, and why not? As for the Sens, Linus Ullmark gets the start, and a lot of noise around Ottawa about his reliability. It gets even louder in this one after he lets in 5 goals in the first period. He gets caught kind of smirking after letting in the 5th one. That's probably not going to go over too well with Sens fans, and they pretty much are fed up with the Ullmark experience this season. Sens can't recover, and they lose a big one to Florida's farm team. Luckily for them, it's March, which means that the Red Wings are completely falling apart. We did a breakdown this week diagnosing exactly what the hell is wrong with them, and they showed it all against the Penguins. They get spanked 5-1, and it's starting to look like Detroit is the new Buffalo of the NHL. Speaking of the Sabres, though, they got the Islanders, who are right in that dogfight too. And what I love about Buffalo this year is that no one takes liberties without answering the bell. First, Anders Lee catches Josh Norris with a hit from behind, so Sam Carrick steps up and fights him. Pretty good tilt. Unfortunately, it looks like Sam Carrick just completely ruins his shoulder at the end of it. It is the price they're willing to pay, though, this year. And in the final minutes, Peyton Krebs gets the late game-winning dagger to give Buffalo the win. The Sabres have reached 100 points for the first time since 2010. What a time to be alive. Another team that keeps on rolling as well as the Carolina Hurricanes. I get flack from Hurricanes fans every week for not giving them more credit. One word to describe them, though, is business. They take care of business more often than not. They're a lock for a playoff spot every year. They take down Columbus 5-2, who don't gain any ground being in that last wildcard spot in the East. A team that does, though, is Boston. How about the Bruins? Hey, they come back from a huge deficit against Columbus last game, and then a statement win tonight. 6-3 dub. They're getting closer and closer to locking in the playoff spot. Two teams on the outside looking in, though, are the Flyers and Caps. Philly has been red hot lately, but ladies and gentlemen, enjoy it while you can, because Alex Ovechkin, at 40 years old, is probably still smashing Coors Banquets in between intermissions and is still scoring goals. He gets not 1, but 2 tonight, including this one where he makes a diving effort to pot it in. You want to talk about consistent greatness. That is his 20th 30-goal season. Now, there's rumors that he might just Irish exit the NHL and basically say the last few games that he's done. He's not going to do the whole retirement tour thing. And if that's the case, I'm probably going to cry my damn eyes out like a baby, because that is my childhood right there. What a career and what a game. Caps win a big one to stay alive. No team is also hotter right now than the Montreal Canadiens. They got the Tampa Bay Lightning, and this is a potential first-round matchup as it stands right now. Another tight game, but when you need a goal, you call Cole Caulfield himself. His 47th of the season is the game winner. Shout out Jakub Dobiš as well, too. Has been unbelievable as of late. That is their 6th win in a row. Out west, we do get a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for the Bedards. There is perhaps a little hope that they will one day get their name back, as Anton and Uncle Frundell scores his first NHL career goal. Help is on the way, but the Jets say that's enough. Kyle Connor, the secret assassin, scores the OT winner, and if you can believe it, the Jets are just 1 point back of being in a playoff spot. They could sneak in when everyone had written them off. Finally, The night ends with the Oilers and the Kraken. About a week and a half ago, the whole story around Edmonton is that they can't defend. The goalie can't make a save. Same old thing, but they've just come together as of late. They're playing a lot better defensively. Connor Ingram is making the saves he needs to, and he made enough to shut out Seattle in this game. The Kraken have just completely fumbled the season. The Oilers win their fourth in a row and are now breathing down the necks of the Ducks for the division lead in the Pacific. Now, before Wednesday's games, I do have to take this moment and pour one out for Team Italy. Yep, there's just something about that shade of blue that just seems to have a knack for choking in the big moments. 3 straight World Cups in a row that they haven't qualified. But here's the thing. You don't have to be like Italy. You can still go to the World Cup, and you can do it on a great deal by using SeatGeek. Yes, World Cup tickets are now available on SeatGeek, which is the #1 rated ticketing app in the world. You know how it works by now. You browse seating on a scale of 1 to 10. Look for the green, which indicates the best deals, and voila, you got your tickets for a great price. You know SeatGeek hooked us up too with a great deal, so if you hit the link in the description to download the app, it'll automatically apply the code HOCKEY2026 so that you have 10% off on your next pair of tickets. I use SeatGeek for every live event I go to now. It is the best way to experience a game live on a great deal. So get the app for yourself, use the code, and enjoy your next game with SeatGeek. Shifting over to Wednesday, it's the first place team against the last place team. Colorado versus Vancouver. Hockey makes no sense, and I'll show you firsthand. Starting it off, it's the Nate Dogg high-stepping his way to his 50th goal of the season. He's the first player to hit the mark this year. Monster season yet again for him. But then the Canucks take over. I think that's the first time I've said that all year. They just start overwhelming Colorado to the point where they had a 6-2 lead. Scotty Wedgwood gets yanked for the Avs, and they remember, oh shit, we're playing Vancouver. They score 4 straight goals to tie the game up, and then they let Vancouver come back 30 seconds later and score the game-winning goal. Brock Besser, the Brock Star, got the hat trick in this game. He had an empty net or two. Avs lose 8-6 to Vancouver, which is just hilarious, but I think that brings up the real question mark for the Avs heading into the playoffs, and I think that is goaltending. It is everyone's #1 concern for the team going into the postseason, and this game didn't do it any favors. Next is the Blues versus the Kings, the best 2 spots you can be in. They're either in the draft lottery or in the playoffs. Let's go to OT where less is more. Trevor Moore takes it to the net like it owes him money, and he buries to get the Kings back into the last wildcard spot. Big 2 points there, and that sets up a monumental game for the San Jose Sharks, and the kid was dancing in this one. First, Celebrini ties the game right at the start of the third. Then within their 2 minutes left, they need a goal again. Celebrini says, "That's okay, I got it." He steps right in, rips it to tie the game up. The Ducks are having a tough week when it comes to holding leads, and it gets even worse because Celebrini sets Wemberg up on a platter. He goes upstairs for the Sharks to take the late lead and ultimately win the game. Comeback win for them. Macklin Celebrini had a 4-point night, and here's a stat that just doesn't seem real and will probably make you feel sick. Macklin Celebrini, 17 games this season with 3+ points and only 19 games with 0 points. Still a teenager, by the way, and he has the Sharks just 1 point back of a playoff spot to keep the 2026 Cup prophecy alive for the Sharks. On to Thursday. This could be the first time in 5,173 days that we will be guaranteed Sabres playoff hockey. They have a chance to clinch in this game, but the Sens, they're in pure desperation mode. They set the tone right away. It's Captain Brady Tkachuk. He drops the mitts with Logan Stanley, who caught him with a sucker punch a few months ago. A lot of noise around Allmark coming into this game too. He just throws up the bird, stops 21 of 22, and calls it a night with a Sens 4-1 win. Next is just as big of a game between the Flyers versus Red Wings. March is over, so technically it means Detroit can start winning again. DeBrincat Potts too. Showtime Patrick Kane gets a game winner as Detroit gets their biggest win of the season. We're also running it back between the Jackets and Hurricanes. And after being the best damn team in the league for about 20 games, Columbus is going cold at a brutal time. Carolina slaps them around again for their 5th loss in a row. That's no bueno. All they could muster up in this game was just 10 shots. One of the best players since the Olympic break also has been the Golden Boy, Jack Hughes. When he's healthy, this kid is an all-world player. 2 goals and 3 assists, 5-point game. He got the game winner in this one too. In his last 18 games, he's put up 32 points. Just a monster run. Everyone's on the beach in Florida, by the way, sipping margaritas on the IR, but they still managed to have Boston's number and hurt their tank job. Meanwhile, here's Cooch in his rocking chair, smoke and a pancake. He goes upstairs without even looking from a ridiculous angle. Absolute sick puppy. 3-point night for him. Cirelli got a hat trick. That puts them back into first spot in the Atlantic. Also, did you know that no Montreal Canadian has ever won the Rocket Richard Trophy? Cole Caulfield, though, is flirting with the idea here. The kid can't stop scoring goals. It's why he's one away from 50. And Nathan MacKinnon, he gets 2 in this game. He beats the Rangers to win their 7th in a row. The hottest team in the National right now is indeed Montreal. Next up is the Hughes Bowl. Quinn Hughes returns to Vancouver for the first time since being dealt. The man could literally cry tears of joy knowing he's not a Canuck anymore because 2 things happened in this game. Vancouver clinched the last place spot in the league, while Minnesota takes their free win and clinches a playoff spot. Another team finding their mojo too are the Oilers. Adam Henrique hasn't scored in 51 games. That's the type of scoring drought that'll make you switch religions just to bury one. He gets off the schneid and the Oilers actually defend their way to another win. Don't let them get hot. Jari comes back from Shanghai and helps them pick up their 5th win in a row. That is their longest winning streak of the season, and they're now tied with the Ducks for the division lead in the Pacific. Now, here's how to defend your superstar as well. Robertson almost gets low-bridged from Neil Pionk. Then he wants to drop the gloves with him. Dallas says, nah, you're not touching the RoboCop, and eventually it leads to both captains squaring off at center ice. Ben and Lowry, that's how it's done. Jets also blew a fantastic chance to finally get back into a playoff spot by being shut out 3-0 by Dallas. I'd like you to know that also the Seattle Kraken highlights this year are just Bobby McMahon scoring and them losing. Yeah, he scored again, and then they also lose again to the Mammoth. I don't think there's a team in the league that loves being in the mushy middle more than Seattle. The Leafs are also about 50 layers below that mushy middle, but here's the difference between the West and the East. Both the Sharks and the Leafs had the same amount of points coming into this game, yet the Sharks are just 1 point back of a playoff spot, and the Leafs are 11 points back and are in the season from hell. Despite keeping Celebrini off the score sheet, the Sharks win 4-1 and mathematically eliminate the Leafs from playoff contention as well as any further parade celebrations. It gets even better too for Leaf fans. Mitch Marner, dry hair Mitch, they call him here in Toronto, looking just fine for John Tortorella. 5-point night, including a hat trick. They're playing him at center, and he's looking damn good in that spot. The Leafs never tried that, by the way. Vegas remains undefeated in the Torts era. Finally, we had the Kings. This is a huge game for the spot in the Western wild card. Nashville was up 4-1 at one point, and then they let the Kings come all the way back to tie it because LA, all they like to do is play in overtime games. This one went to OT, and that is their 30th OT game of the season. That is an NHL record. It's why they're even in the race right now. Meanwhile, it took both teams 8 rounds to score a goal in the shootout until Luke Evangelista finally says, let's go home, start the car as the Preds avoid the full-on choke. So as Thursday ends, the Sharks, Kings, and Preds all have 79 points and are in a dogfight for the last spot in the Western Conference. On Friday, we had just 2 games on, but both are very important. The first is Philly versus the Islanders. New York is in the 3rd spot in the Metro. They're being chased by the whole pack, which includes Philly, who is basically in a do-or-die game here. Owen Tippett starts the scoring off. Leave a Tippett on the doorstep. He's burying that all day. And for those who haven't been paying attention, Tippett has been really taking his game to another level this year. And in this one, so is Matvei Michkov. He Adam banks one in for a goal and has a 3-point night. The Islanders are in trouble, so they pull the goalie with 7 minutes left. Matthew Schaefer turns into Scott Sterling. He makes not 1, not 2, but 3 saves with the empty net. The kid is just all heart. He's doing everything he can, but the Islanders ultimately fall short in a huge game that puts Philly 1 point back from them of stealing their spot. The other game was out west between the Blues and the Ducks. The youth of Anaheim is starting to show here down the stretch. They had a pretty sizable lead for the Pacific Division, but Edmonton has caught up as the Ducks have lost 3 in a row. The Blues, on the other hand, are in a win-win situation the way I look at it. They can either miss the playoffs and get a chance to win the lottery, or they make the playoffs. They need this one, and they come out firing 6 goals. Hofer made the start. He's been taking over the starting position from Binnington, and he was fantastic in this one. Blues win big to keep the slide going for the Ducks and pick up a big 2 points going into Saturday. So we go into Hockey Night with a big game for the Detroit Red Wings. I'm telling you, it is panic at the disco right now for Detroit. You got to take your gimme games, especially against the Rangers. Do they? Nope. Gabe Perreault, the rookie, gets his first career hat trick. The Yzer plan is in shambles. Losing to the Rangers, man, I mean, come on. You can't do that this time of year. Big time miss, but also a blessing in disguise because Minnesota comes in and completely shuts down Ottawa. You got both of the Foligno brothers just chirping the hell out of Cousins and the Sens bench. Welcome to the show. Wild win 4-1 and take away a crucial 2 points from the Senators. There was also an absolute juggernaut match between the Stars and Avalanche. Playoff game and pace all the way through. Almost no space out there to cook. McKinnon and Jamie Benn got in each other's kitchen. Little ear flick, sure, why not? This was all tied until Marty Necas gets such a nice dish that he feels underdressed for the dinner. Lehkonen puts it on a platter. All he's got to do is tap it in like Happy Gilmore. McKinnon didn't miss the empty netter this time. Sorry, Canada, but the Avs shut out Dallas. Then we had Pittsburgh versus Florida. This was close for about a period, and then Florida threw on the war paint and jumped in the tank. 6 goals in the second period for the Penguins. Crosby's 2 assists means he passes Stevie Yzerman for 7th all-time on the points list. And, of course, Malkin in the middle. Mr. 101 gets a hat trick in this game, turning back the clock. Remember the hashtag Save Sid movement? Yeah, Sid doesn't need to be saved. Pittsburgh's the real deal, James Neal. They spanked the Panthers 9-4 and officially eliminate them from playoff contention. The times are changing because for the first time since the toaster was invented, the Buffalo Sabres are going to the Stanley Cup playoffs, baby. Easily the biggest surprise of the season. No one saw this coming, and what a story they've been. They didn't even need to win today's game to clinch, which was good because the Caps came out desperate as they're just barely hanging on in the playoff race for dear life. They get a big win over Buffalo. The other guys who clinched without even playing is Tampa, except they take care of business, beating Boston with the bald eagle himself. Darren Radish scoring again. That's 21 on the year for him. A single season record for Tampa. This guy's having the season of his life and has stepped up big time in Victor Hedman's place with him missing majority of the year. Let's keep it going with the teams in the East just completely blowing it. The Blue Jackets are in one hell of a slide. They got Winnipeg and let the secret assassin slip right through the front door. 2 goals in this one for Kyle Connor. Jets win in hand Columbus. Their 6th loss in a row. It's like all the work they put in after the coaching change is now being erased. Great time for the Islanders to take advantage. Too bad they don't. Seth Jarvis gets 2 goals. New York loses their 4th in a row, but Matthew Schaefer sets the record for most points for an 18-year-old defenseman in NHL history. Without him and Sorokin, I think it's entirely possible this team is in the basement with the Canucks. Speaking of Vancouver, they did lose to Utah, who win their 3rd in a row. Clayton Keller got a hat trick, and they're comfy in a playoff spot. So are the Habs, who are flirting with winning the Atlantic Division. There are so many aspects of this team that you can love right now. Jakub Dobiš is one of them. 35 saves, big in the shootout. Oliver Kapanen is today's Slick Rick for the shootout winner. That is now 8 in a row for the Bleu Blanc et Rouge. No one is hotter than the youngest team in the NHL. The Pacific title is also up for grabs between Edmonton and Anaheim, yet neither one of them want it. Vegas's claim as the 2026 Fugazis may be gone under John Tortorella. They remain perfect under him. They shut down Edmonton 5-1. Eichel had 3 points in that one. Meanwhile, the Ducks can't take advantage because they lose to Calgary of all teams. 5 losses in a row for them. That right there is why they call it the Pillow Fight Division. Meanwhile, the Kings, Preds, and Sharks are all tied for the last wildcard spot in the West. The Kings had the Leafs, which is great. The bad news for them is that the Leafs play like the 96 Bulls when it's time to tank. This was an absolute barn burner, 6-6. Kings have already set the OT record, so they were completely comfortable going there again. And how about this tic-tac-toe re-mi faso from Panarin to Byfield? He says, you take it. Byfield berries. That's the game, and the Kings get a big 2 points there. The Preds and Sharks, on the other hand, were playing each other. San Jose were completely asleep at the wheel in the first. 3-0 Nashville after one, but San Jose and Celebrini again come all the way back to tie it only to give it right back. Ryan O'Reilly with the dagger gets the game winner. Nashville gets 2 points, and with that, this is where things stand to end this week. It changes quickly, but the Preds are in the last spot, tied with LA, and in the East, it's a four-way tie between Ottawa, Detroit, Philly, and Columbus. Don't forget, too, the Islanders are in danger as well, as Philly and Columbus can jump the wild cards and take New York's spot. So, what did you think of week 23? Who surprised you? Who pissed you off? Who do you think is going to make it in? Let me know in the comments down below. We got a ton of breakdowns coming for the playoffs and in the playoffs, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a single thing for the NHL season.